When two countries meet, it's usually just handshakes and contracts, but sometimes it becomes more than just politics, it becomes purpose. And today, we're standing at the beginning of something bigger than a partnership on paper. We're witnessing a connection that has the potential to change lives. Not just in India, not just in the Philippines, but in the hearts of every Filipino and every Indian who dreams of a better future. Because this is a partnership with purpose. There's something beautiful about two nations standing side by side, not because they have to, but because they choose to. Not out of convenience, but because their hearts beat for the same things: freedom, dignity, and a better tomorrow for their people. That's what makes the relationship between India and the Philippines so inspiring. It's not built on fear. It's not driven by desperation. It's grounded in something deeper: shared democratic values. You see, democracy is not just about elections or government systems. It's about people. It's about giving everyone a voice, whether you're rich or poor, whether you're living in a bustling city or a quiet province. It's about knowing that your opinion matters, your dreams count, and your life has value. That's the kind of soil where hope can grow. And both India and the Philippines have chosen to plant their roots in that soil. India, with its incredible diversity, languages, religions, cultures, and beliefs, has always been a place where voices rise from every direction. And even though it hasn't been easy, the heart of its democracy keeps beating strong. The same can be said of the Philippines. We've faced so many storms, both literal and political, but the Filipino spirit has always held on to one truth: we have the right to be heard. We may not always agree with each other. We may argue. We may protest. But that's democracy in action. That's what makes us alive. What's special about this shared value is that it forms the foundation of real partnership. Because when two nations believe in the same things at their core, it's easier to trust, to understand, and to grow together. Poto mustero, posto payote amon amon. Once tachuksin, posto kenay amon, posto payote amon. It's not just about doing business or signing treaties. It's about walking in the same direction, not because we're forced to, but because we see the same future. There's something deeply human about that. Something comforting. When you know that the other side understands the value of listening, of choosing leaders through the voice of the people, of respecting the rights of individuals, it brings peace. It creates a kind of harmony that isn't always visible, but you feel it. You feel it in the way both countries fight for education, for freedom of speech, for the dignity of every worker, student, and citizen. And in this world where so much is changing, where power often comes before principle, it's refreshing to see two nations choosing people over politics, choosing truth over convenience, choosing democracy even when it's messy, even when it's difficult, even when the road is unclear. That choice says a lot. It tells us that our values are not just words in a constitution. They are a way of life. This shared belief also opens doors for young people, for those studying political science or dreaming of becoming leaders, for the artists who use their voice to speak truth, for the journalists who shine light in dark places, for the teachers who remind students that their opinions matter. In both India and the Philippines, democracy gives us space to imagine, to speak, and to act. It allows us to be brave. And maybe that's the real strength behind this partnership, not just the resources or the agreements or the plans, but the courage, yes, the courage, to stay democratic in a world that often rewards control. The courage to remain open, to keep listening, to protect the space where disagreement is allowed, because that's where growth begins. We are not perfect, neither is India, but we are trying, we are growing. We are believing that a better future comes not from silence, but from conversation, not from domination, but from collaboration, not from fear, but from freedom. That's why this partnership matters, because it's not just two governments talking, it's two peoples dreaming, two peoples choosing to believe in respect, in choice, injustice. And when that kind of belief is shared, anything becomes possible. So maybe this isn't just a political alliance. Maybe this is the beginning of a deeper friendship, one that stands the test of time, one that speaks the same language, not always in words, but in values. And in a world that sometimes forgets what truly matters, this kind of partnership is exactly what we need. And maybe, just maybe, is the kind of partnership that will remind the world that democracy still works. There's something so empowering about watching two nations rise, not separately, but side by side. When India and the Philippines come together, it's not just about politics or tradition. It's about possibility. It's about creating opportunities that uplift families, empower the youth, and build a future that feels within reach. This isn't just trade. It's not just about exports or numbers on a chart. This is about mutual growth, economic progress that touches lives and makes dreams more than just ideas whispered in silence. When India steps into a partnership, it brings with it a powerhouse of innovation, especially in technology and digital infrastructure. It's a country that once used to be known just for its spices and culture, but today, it's a global leader in software, startups, and smart solutions. And then we look at the Philippines, filled with hardworking people, resilient communities, and a young population eager to contribute. The hunger to grow, to improve, to be part of something bigger is so present in our people. So when these two worlds meet, the potential is not just promising, it's powerful. This kind of partnership doesn't stay in high-rising buildings or boardrooms. It trickles down. You see it in the Filipino call center agent who's now working for an Indian tech company, in the small Filipino business owner using Indian-made software to streamline operations, in the Indian entrepreneur finding new markets and new friends in Cebu, Davao, or Manila. These stories aren't always told, but they matter, because they're proof that when two economies complement each other, lives begin to change, not in theory, but in reality.
India brings expertise, scale, and technology. The Philippines brings talent, warmth, and global adaptability. Together, it's a partnership that makes sense. It's like two puzzle pieces finally finding their fit. We don't have to be the same. We just have to bring what we do best to the table and trust that the other side will do the same. That's how mutual growth works, not by competing, but by completing. And what's truly exciting is that both countries are not just looking at what they can get, but also what they can give. It's not a one-way street. There's a spirit of collaboration, a recognition that success tastes sweeter when it's shared. And in that space of mutual respect and benefit, growth becomes sustainable, long-term, real. Think about how many jobs can be created when investments flow not just into large cities, but into smaller communities. When Indian companies see the heart of Filipino workers, not just the statistics, when Filipino innovators get the chance to showcase their ideas to Indian investors, it's more than just income, it's dignity. It's the joy of knowing that your work has value, that you're contributing to something that matters. And let's not forget the role of the youth in all this. Both India and the Philippines have some of the youngest populations in the world. Imagine the power of that. Imagine what can happen when our youth have access to the same tools, the same knowledge, and the same inspiration, when they're not just consumers of technology, but creators. Not just workers, but leaders. That's the kind of growth we're talking about, growth with a future, growth with purpose. What makes this even more meaningful is that both nations know the value of hard work. We know what it's like to rise from struggle, to rebuild, to hope. We've seen our parents sacrifice. We've watched our communities push forward even when the odds were against us. So now that opportunity is knocking, we don't take it lightly. We honor it by showing up, by giving our best, by believing that this is only the beginning. This is not about who's richer or who's more powerful. It's about lifting each other up. It's about rewriting the narrative so that success is no longer limited to just a few. It's shared, it's spread, it's multiplied. When India and the Philippines commit to economic partnership, it sends a message, not just to our people, but to the world, that growth doesn't have to come at the cost of others. That we can move forward without leaving anyone behind. That we can choose prosperity that includes heart, values, and community. Because in the end, True growth isn't just about rising incomes or stronger currencies. It's about people, about giving a father the chance to provide, a mother the chance to start her business, a student the chance to dream bigger. And when both nations are growing together like this, then the future, it doesn't just look bright, it looks beautifully shared. Sometimes the most powerful connections aren't made in boardrooms or conferences. They're made over stories, music, flavors, and shared dreams. And when we talk about India and the Philippines, we're talking about two cultures that are so rich, so colorful, and so deeply rooted in values that when they meet, something magical happens. This isn't just about trade or strategy. This is about hearts connecting. This is about learning from each other, not just through textbooks, but through life itself. Imagine an Indian student stepping into a Filipino classroom, hearing laughter in the hallway, being offered a plate of pancit during break time. Or a Filipino scholar walking through the streets of Mumbai, tasting samosas for the first time and feeling the warmth of Indian hospitality that feels strangely familiar. These moments are small, but they matter. Because they break barriers, they soften walls, they make us realize we're not so different after all. Cultural and educational exchanges are not just formal programs on paper. They are living experiences. When we allow our youth to study in each other's countries, we're not just giving them a diploma, we're giving them perspective, we're showing them a new way to see the world, we're helping them understand that growth doesn't just happen in comfort zones. Sometimes the best lessons come from stepping into the unfamiliar. What's beautiful is that both Indians and Filipinos are deeply rooted in family, in respect, in faith. We know how to honor our elders. We celebrate our traditions, we dance, we sing, we cook with our whole hearts. So when our cultures come together, it doesn't feel forced. It feels like coming home to a different version of ourselves. It feels like a reunion we didn't know we needed. Through music, we learn each other's soul. A Filipino might not understand all the words in a Hindi song, but they can feel the emotion behind it. Just like how an Indian student might hear a kundaman for the first time and feel something stir in their chest, that's the power of culture. It speaks beyond language. It connects us in ways logic never could. Education, on the other hand, is where transformation begins. When we open doors for Indian students to learn in Filipino universities, or when we welcome Filipino scholars into India's institutions of science and medicine, we're planting seeds that go beyond academics. We're building bridges. We're creating leaders who will one day look back and say, I became who I am because I saw the world through someone else's eyes. These exchanges also make our countries more compassionate. Because it's harder to hate what you understand. It's harder to judge what you've come to know. And when students and teachers and artists and professionals begin to share space, ideas, and friendship, the world becomes a little kinder, a little more open, a little more human. We live in a time when everything moves fast. We scroll, we swipe, we consume, but cultural and educational exchange invites us to slow down, to sit with a new dish, to listen to a new story, to learn a new way of thinking, and in doing so, we discover more about ourselves than we ever expected. It also prepares us for a more global future. The next generation of leaders won't just be those who studied hard, they'll be the ones who connected deeply, who understood how to work with others across continents, beliefs, and languages. This partnership between India and the Philippines is giving our youth that edge, not just professionally, but emotionally, spiritually, and socially. Because the truth is, we are better together. When a Filipino educator brings their creativity into an Indian classroom, it adds life. When an Indian professor shares their discipline and structure in a Filipino setting, it brings strength. And in that exchange, we both grow, we both rise. This isn't just about scholarships or travel. This is about transformation. It's about saying yes to a future that values learning, empathy, and connection more than competition. A future where we don't just coexist, but truly understand and celebrate each other, and maybe, just maybe, through every exchange of knowledge, of music, of food, of language, we're creating something the world desperately needs right now. Unity through understanding, strength through diversity, peace through connection, that's the kind of relationship that lasts, one built not just on paper, but on people, not just on policies, but on purpose. And in that space where cultures meet and minds grow, the future doesn't just look bright, it feels alive. There are moments in history when countries don't just align because it's convenient, but because it's necessary. Because something bigger is calling, because there's a shared understanding that standing together means standing stronger. That's what's happening between India and the Philippines. It's not just about agreements or signed documents. It's about a quiet, steady unity that's being built, not in the headlines, but in the hearts of people who understand the importance of peace, strength, and standing for something. This world we live in today. It's complicated. There are growing tensions, shifting powers, and moments where smaller nations are often overlooked. But what if two countries, rooted in democracy, driven by values, and filled with hope, chose to face those challenges together? What if instead of fear they chose friendship? Instead of silence, they chose strategy. That's exactly what India and the Philippines are doing. It's no secret that the Indo-Pacific region is becoming more and more important, not just for trade, but for stability. And it's also no secret that there are threats out there, uncertainties, pressures that push countries to pick sides, to stay quiet, to bow down. But unity doesn't mean weakness. It means knowing who you are and knowing who's standing with you. India has long been a strong presence in Asia, a country that holds its ground, that believes in sovereignty and fairness, and the Philippines, though smaller, has always been brave, always ready to protect its people, its resources, and its dignity. So when these two nations find each other, not just as partners, but as allies, something powerful happens. It's not about trying to dominate, it's about protecting what matters most: peace, freedom, and the right to choose your own future. Strategic unity doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's seen in quiet cooperation, military training exercises, joint development projects, technology exchanges, and diplomatic visits that send a quiet but clear message: we're not alone. And sometimes that message is all that's needed to keep trouble at bay. But beyond defense and diplomacy, there's also mutual trust. You can't build strategy without trust. And that trust is being formed through every conversation, every handshake, every effort to listen, understand, and walk together. There's no space for ego here, just shared goals, shared dreams. A shared hope that the region we call home will remain a place of stability, opportunity, and peace for generations to come. What's special is that this unity isn't just about guarding borders, it's also about expanding horizons. India and the Philippines are looking at how they can help each other grow, economically, technologically, culturally, because a region is only as strong as the bonds within it, and the stronger the relationship, the more resilient the people. And when you think about the young people watching this unfold, it matters even more, because unity teaches the next generation that working together isn't a weakness, it's wisdom, that strategy isn't just about power, it's about purpose. It tells them that in a world full of division, building bridges still matters. This partnership sends a message that we don't have to wait for conflict to come knocking before we build alliances. We can start now. We can be proactive, not reactive. We can be wise instead of fearful, because peace isn't passive, it's something you prepare for. You protect it by showing you're not alone, that you're backed not by weapons, but by relationships that mean something. It's also important to remember that unity in the region creates opportunities. It builds trust among investors. It opens doors for regional collaboration in education, trade, healthcare, and even environmental efforts. When people see that two countries are working together with respect and strength, they feel safer, they feel encouraged, and that's how growth happens, not just for India and the Philippines, but for the whole region. So maybe this strategic unity is more than just a political move. Maybe it's a statement of identity, a declaration of what kind of nations we want to be, not isolated, not intimidated, but connected. Empowered, ready, because in the face of uncertainty, unity shines the brightest, and when that unity is rooted in friendship, in values, and in shared purpose, then no matter what challenges may come, we will face them together. There's something incredibly powerful about a future that doesn't revolve around power, control, or profit, but around people. Because when you put people at the heart of every plan, every partnership, and every promise, something real begins to grow. Something lasting, and that's the kind of future India and the Philippines are working toward, a future where development isn't just measured in numbers, but in lives changed, in communities uplifted. In dignity restored, this isn't about grand speeches or complicated strategies. It's about asking one simple question: how are our people doing? Are they safe? Are they seen? Are they supported? Because real progress is not found in headlines, it's found in households. In the stories of ordinary people who get a little more hope, a little more opportunity, a little more space to breathe. That's why this partnership matters, because both India and the Philippines know what it's like to fight for their people. We've seen poverty, we've seen hardship, but we've also seen resilience. We've seen parents who work 3 jobs just to send their kids to school. We've seen farmers who keep planting even after typhoons. We've seen teachers who never give up, even when their classrooms are falling apart. These are the people who deserve a future built with them in mind, and when 2 countries that carry the same heart for their people come together, something meaningful happens. There's a shared vision, not just of economic growth, but of human growth, not just development for the elite, but inclusion for the everyday person. That's what makes this partnership different. It's not about who gets ahead faster. It's about how we can all rise together. Think about what that means for healthcare. When both nations invest in making medical services more affordable and accessible, it means less mothers losing their children to treatable diseases. It means fewer families having to choose between buying medicine or buying food. It means more people living longer, healthier, and more hopeful lives. And that is the kind of development we should all be aiming for. In education, the possibilities are just as inspiring. By sharing resources, exchanging scholars, and supporting each other's academic goals, we're creating a generation that is not just smart, but socially aware. A generation that will grow up knowing what partnership looks like, what compassion looks like, because they've lived it, they've benefited from it, they've seen 2 nations care about more than just themselves. And it's not just about the big programs, it's in the little things too, in making sure public transport is safe and accessible, in ensuring clean water reaches far-flung communities, in protecting the rights of overseas workers. These aren't headline topics, but they are life-changing realities, and they remind us, if it doesn't serve the people, it's not worth building. What's beautiful is that both India and the Philippines are filled with people who care. Leaders, workers, citizens, people who still believe in the value of community, of faith, of kindness. People who still believe that every person, no matter how small, deserves a chance to thrive. And that belief is what fuels this partnership. It's not just based on shared interest, it's based on shared intention. Because here's the truth: when you care for the people, the economy grows, the nation strengthens, the world takes notice. But when you forget the people, everything else eventually crumbles. So the best investment we can make is in them, in the mother trying to start her own business, in the student studying late into the night, in the driver working through traffic just to provide. They are the heart of our nations. They are the future, so let's continue to build, yes. Let's plan, strategize, and grow. But let's never forget why we're doing it. Not for power, not for pride, but for people. For the ones who wake up every day hoping life gets a little bit better. For the ones who still believe that kindness and unity can make a difference. Because when we put people first, we build a future that's not just strong, but compassionate, not just successful, but soulful. A future that doesn't just shine, but uplifts, and maybe that's the kind of future the world needs more than ever. A future that doesn't revolve around ambition, but around humanity. A future that isn't built on ego, but on empathy, and a future where every person, no matter where they are from, can finally say this world has a place for me. The world often tells us to compete, to race, to win alone, but today, this partnership reminds us of a better way that success feels more meaningful when it's shared. That growth is deeper when it's grounded in values, and that the future shines brighter when we walk toward it together. So to India and the Philippines, this is more than policy, more than trade. More than strategy, this is a partnership with purpose, and our purpose is just beginning.